Good morning, everybody. This is Lucian Smith in for Richard Cross here on Mornings on SuperTalk. With us in studio is Mike Hurst, the chairman of the Mississippi Republican Party and former U.S. attorney. How you doing, Mr. Chairman?
Hey, good morning, Lucian. How are you, man?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Well. Appreciate your being here.
Absolutely.
I know you've got a few jobs simultaneously.
Yeah.
So
I got a little bit going on. That's okay.
Well, we've been talking a lot about the things going on at the national level. What sort of – I know y'all get calls regularly at the party from people happy with the Republican leadership, unhappy with the Republican leadership, all sorts of feedback. But what sort of feedback have y'all been getting, if any, about the president's tariffs?
We haven't been getting too much feedback, honestly. I mean, people are still excited that, I remind people, it feels like he's been in there for about 2 or 3 years already. Right. It's been 78 days. That's it, 78 days. And the amount that he's been able to accomplish in 78 days through executive orders, through DOGE and what Elon Musk is doing, to reshaping the federal government. I mean, the American people voted for this man because he's the disruptor in chief,
and he is
absolutely
followed
doing
up
that.
on it.
So we have gotten almost nothing but positive comments, positive input from constituents, citizens, and you have to remember. I mean, this is Trump Central. Mississippi is Trump. I mean, this is America right here. We're part of the Gulf of America. We are the middle of Trump headquarters, and so people are excited about it. I know people are a little antsy about the tariffs, or a little concerned about the tariffs, but I just say, give them a chance. I mean, if you look at the press, I think I saw this weekend the Secretary of Treasury had said that 50 nations have already reached out to the United States to try to renegotiate trade deals. I think that's a great thing. I think for so long we have been taken advantage of by other countries, and I think by him doing this and by him going out and doing things that no one expected him to do, and frankly no one really knows what he's going to do, that is causing a reset of the global market, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing in the long run.
It does seem unusual in a good way for the president to actually follow through this much on the things that he said he was going to do. I mean, none of this is a surprise.
Right.
This is how he campaigned.
Yep. And first and foremost, I mean, getting our border secured again, making sure those criminals who came into our country, not just negligently through the Biden administration, but, openly.
Actively brought them over, flew some of them over.
And you got a judge trying to bring them back.
Right, yeah. And exactly what you said, doing what he said he was going to do. I think the American people find that refreshing, because a lot of times when people run, especially for president of the United States, they make a lot of promises but don't actually fulfill them.
Yeah, well, he has been just as active as he promised he was going to be.
Right,
and we saw some of this back after 2016. I mean, he was not sitting around trying to be a typical Washington politician after his last election.
And I think there's an energy that we're seeing with him and this administration this time around that we didn't see in 2017 after he was elected. I think the assassination attempts have really changed his mindset, changed his outlook. I think he understands that he does have 3.5 years, 3 years and 3.75 years to go. And I think he's taken advantage of every single second that he has in this new term, and he's going to make the most of it. And I think that's great for the American people.
I agree with you. I do worry, and I'd be curious to get your thoughts. I mean, if at some point there are going to be political consequences of any sort of economic collapse. I think people can put up with some turmoil in the markets. I think they can put up with some economic turmoil. But if this turns into a real recession, if this turns into a continued sell-offs, I mean, at some point, do you think this costs us politically in the midterm elections?
Yeah, I think it's too early to say, because people are just assuming, or the pundits, let me say that, the pundits are just assuming the tariffs are going to cause this financial breakdown and it's going to be the worst thing that's ever happened to America. I don't think we can just assume that. I think if you look at what he's done in the past, not just in politics but in business, I mean, a lot of this is negotiating. A lot of this is just posturing for negotiations. And in the short term that we've seen in the last couple of weeks, that's turning out to be a positive for our country, because all these countries are coming back to the table and trying to renegotiate. And I think that's better for America. So, the gloom and doom that the media has been putting out there, that the pundits have been putting out there, I don't think we can just assume that's going to happen. We have to give it a little time to work. Yes, it might be painful in the short term, but like he said, in the long term, I think it's going to be beneficial.
Yeah, I hope that's the case. I will say, I feel like the media has been the boy who cried wolf with Trump for a decade.
On everything.
Everything he's done has been the worst thing ever, and it's going to destroy the country and the world. And then that doesn't happen. And so I think it's kind of the point that even if he were to do something, and we'll see if tariffs turn out to be this thing, I'm like you, I hope they're not, that I think so many of us are just conditioned to go, let's just see. Let's let him do this.
And sadly, the politics has gotten so divisive in our country that the Democrats, I saw some videos of Nancy Pelosi talking about tariffs a number of years ago, saying that, they're a good thing. And now anything that Trump says or Trump does is automatically evil to the Democrats, whether it's helping American workers, whether it's protecting citizens from illegal aliens, all these things that Democrats in the past have bloviated about are good for America. If Trump is in favor of them, all of a sudden they are terrible for America.
Well, it's like I think for some people it's replaced religion. And so if, Trump is the devil, and so if he says it, it must be bad.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And it's I don't think it's healthy, but I think that's where we are these days. Let's turn a little bit to the state. I mean, what did you think of the legislative session this year?
Well, I mean, I think we did some historic things, and I think they should be applauded. I think the governor pushing the legislature to do those things. I mean, eliminating the income tax. I mean, that is something that we don't get enough credit for. Is what the Republicans have done over the last decade, 2 decades, to change the way Mississippi not only functions but is seen by the world and seen by our country. A lot of people don't remember, but the Republicans have only had the Mississippi House of Representatives for 13 years.
That's right.
And we've only had the governor's mansion for the last 30 years. And so the things that we came in to do, give people more freedom, take more responsibility, give more of their money back, get the government out of their pocketbooks, out of their businesses, out of their lives. I think those things are beginning to show through policy, through regulations that we're getting rid of. Just giving people the liberty back that they so deserve. I think those are going to turn out to be a financial boon to Mississippians, and I think you see that through the governor's focus on economic development, all the money being poured into our state from big companies coming to employ our citizens. Trump talks about the golden age of America. I think we're in the golden age of Mississippi.
And it's funny to me, funny is not really the right word, but if we were run by Democrats, the New York Times and the Washington Post would be doing front page stories about the Mississippi Miracle.
Right. That's exactly right. And I didn't even touch, the education efforts and the payoff that so many governors, so many legislatures have invested into our education system, pulling student grades up, pulling teacher salaries up. I mean, Republicans we're not really thought of as the party of education, but I think if you look at Mississippi and you look at the results,
absolutely,
I don't think you can argue with that.
Absolutely. Now, if Phil Bryant had been a Democrat, there'd be statues of him down here, but that's just not.
No, that's not the way. That's not the way the education establishment, the teachers unions works.
I remember I wrote an op-ed on his last day in office that talked about how he was Mississippi's education governor because of the 2013 reforms that he championed, and people laughing at the idea that he deserved any sort of education credit. And now here we are, and the fruits of those seeds have been harvested.
Yeah, you should rerun that op-ed. It would probably do a little better now.
I may retweet it this time.
Speaking of op-eds, Russ Latino had an incredible op-ed in the National Review this past week talking about all these great things that have been happening in the Mississippi legislature, that have been happening because of Republican leadership in the state of Mississippi. I would encourage all your listeners to go out and read that National Review op-ed for Russ Latino.
That's a great point. Yep. That's a great point. He did a good job of highlighting all that. In Mississippi, we still have work to do, but this was, you're like me. You've been a party man a long time.
Right.
The reason that we work so hard to get Republicans elected is because of what happens when Republicans are able to govern. It's not just about the team with our jersey on winning.
That's right.
It's about getting into a position to change people's lives in a positive way, and I think you're right. That's something we've done. Well, I guess we're going to have a special session at some point. We've got J.T. Mitchell coming on after a while. Maybe he can answer for us what all's going to be in there.
What I tell people, they ask me about the legislature all the time, and our legislature is doing some incredible things. But people ask me about policy, and look, as chairman of the Mississippi Republican Party, I perceive my job as being educating, recruiting, and electing Republicans throughout our state. And once they're in office, if they just adhere to the Republican Party platform, then I think we'll have good policy and we'll have good outcomes for the citizens of Mississippi.
Well, I think that's right. And I'll say, as a former chairman, I think that's the right approach.
I hear that's not the best title ever, right? Former chairman?
Look, being chairman of the party is like having a boat. The two best days are when you get it and when you find a nice person to take it over.
Well, we're very blessed to have really strong conservatives in this state who want to do the right thing and who want to do it selflessly for the Mississippians. And so I'm excited to be able to be a part of that.
You got time for another segment?
Absolutely.
Y'all, this is Lucian Smith in for Richard Cross here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. Stick with us. We'll have more with the chairman of the Mississippi Republican Party, Mike Hurst. Good morning, everybody. This is Lucian Smith in for Richard Cross here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. We've got with us in studio the chairman of the Mississippi Republican Party, Mike Hurst. Mike, thanks again for taking the time to be here.
It's always weird hearing that because I look around when someone says the chairman of the Mississippi Republican Party. So,
well, you're doing a good job.
To be here. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I do think it's an interesting job now that we control all of essentially everything.
Interesting is a great way to put that. I like that. How would you define that exactly?
Well, I was going to ask you, I do think sometimes people assume that you've got the ability to pick up the phone and call the governor or the lieutenant governor, the speaker, fill in the blank and say, well, you listen here, the Republican position is this, you need to get right.
Right.
And maybe it's changed. Yeah. I hadn't been there in 5 years, but when I was chairman, I did not find that I had the ability to order them to do anything.
Yeah, I don't, you talk to my wife, I don't order a lot at home, so I can't say I really order a lot around the state of Mississippi. We try to, I will tell you, we try to, at the Mississippi Republican Party, remind our elected officials of our party platform. I think it's so essential, and I would encourage all your guests, go to msgop.org, look at our party platform. In terms of conservative principles and values, it's hard to beat that platform. And like I said earlier, as long as our elected officials are following that and doing the best they can to adhere to that, I think it results in good policies, and I think it results in good outcomes for our citizens.
Yeah, I think that's right. But
the good thing about our state is I tell folks this all the time outside of Mississippi. I said Mississippi's not a small state. We're a small town.
That's right.
We know folks. To your point, when you were chairman, I'm sure you're the same way. I can pick up the phone and call any of our statewide leaders, any of our legislators. They will take our phone calls. They will discuss, policies and platforms and principles. But to say that I order anything, I think is just a little bit outside the mainstream. So.
Well, and you don't pick who the nominees are.
That's right.
That's something some people I don't think fully understand.
Yeah, and I've had discussions with people calling us, asking us to do that, and my response is, look at our bylaws. Our bylaws say we do not get involved in primaries. We do not get involved in fights between Republicans, and if we're to maintain our credibility and our reputation as a party, we need to stay out of those primary fights.
I think that's right. Running fair primaries is the way to do it.
And if you look on social media, and I try not to get on social media much except for my kids and things like that, but if you look at social media, you do have some who are Republicans who complain about the party getting involved in primaries, and I would say just call the party, call me directly. We do not do that. We do not pick winners and losers until the primaries are over, and then we're going to beat the heck out of Democrats every single time.
There we go. Well, I assume you were not. No one's given you the scoop on what's going to be in the special session when it comes up.
No. Let me check my phone real quick. No, nobody's called me yet about the special session. I do like the way I think the governor phrased it, which is the House and the Senate just kind of go back to their corners, kind of recalibrate, especially after contentiousness. And look, a good contentiousness over conservative policy, and make sure they go back to their corners, recalibrate, rest a little bit, and let's come back together with a budget that is not only conservative, but it's good for the state of Mississippi.
And I think there's a way to get there in plenty of time, and we've got till the end of June before a budget has to be put in place.
That's right.
And this isn't the first time it's happened.
But like you said earlier, Lucian, I don't think our state gets enough credit for the fact that we do require a balanced budget every single year.
It's a good point.
Yeah, and I mean, can you imagine? Can you imagine for a second, listeners? Can you imagine that if we had such a requirement for our federal budget? If we went back to the old days of Contract with America, Newt Gingrich, 1994, and we required a balanced budget amendment, I mean, that would be incredible for our country, and if they just do a little bit more of following what we here in the States do.
It would the country would be a great deal better off if we had some sort of balanced budget amendment. Like
I mean,
the state
can
does.
you imagine? I've never tried this, but have you ever tried to count to a trillion? I don't know if we actually can
I don't know
in
that
our
I've got enough
lifetimes.
time.
Yeah,
That's right.
exactly. So.
You've also y'all had some folks switch over in the last couple of weeks.
We did. We did. We had a number of supervisors, aldermen, coroners from Attala, Carroll, Montgomery counties who, for years, in these local races traditionally, a lot of these elected officials run Democrat because the citizens have only ever known Democrats to run for office. But what I've told our staff and what I've told Republican leaders, that we at the Mississippi Republican Party need to start getting back to the fundamentals of blocking and tackling. And what I mean by that is just getting back to focusing on these local races and convincing these local elected officials who are, frankly, voting in concert with Republican policies and principles and values, convincing them that, yes, you can get elected as a Republican. You can run as a Republican. You can do well by your citizens and your constituents as Republicans. And we saw that with these individuals who have switched over from Democrat to Republican Party. And we took some criticism for that as a party. But what I would tell you is, at least in my opinion, one of the most consequential presidents in our lifetime, Lucian, was Ronald Reagan, who used to be a Democrat.
Right.
Speaker Jason White used to be a Democrat. We have a number of conservatives around this state and around this country who used to be a Democrat, but they have seen the light, and they will tell you the Democratic Party left them. And if you look at almost the singular obsessive focus of the Democratic Party now on things like transgender ideology and DEI and all the woke platform that the Democratic Party is really continuing even after the bludgeoning of the 2024 presidential election, continuing to go out and hammer on. I say, great, keep doing that, because if they keep doing that, we Republicans are going to keep winning elections.
I think that's right. I mean, I think that's one of the great advantages we've got as a party is that the Democrats have gotten so captive to their base.
Yep.
That, used to be you would run in a presidential election, run towards the right, run towards the left, depending on which party you were in, and then try to win the center. And the Democrats have adopted this model, as I see it, where they don't have to move to the center, and they don't have to reckon with this extremist base, because they're going to get the nomination, and then they're going to tell everybody that the other person is an evil fascist who's going to destroy America. And so you have to put up with the crazy trans stuff. You've got to put up with the crazy policy ideas they've got, because otherwise America's going to end.
That's right. And when you go so far down that path, it's hard to recover. I mean, in past presidential elections that the Republicans have lost, I think we've done a good job of doing that autopsy of where we are as a party, why have we lost, what issues do we need to focus on. But I have to tell you, I'm happy to see the Democrats aren't doing a very good job of
Not
that.
at all.
It seems like they're almost doubling down on the extreme progressive left agenda that has gotten them beaten this last election. So.
And we've gone through those phases too.
Absolutely.
And I remember when we would lose presidential elections and you'd see some of our activists say, well, the problem is we weren't conservative enough.
Right.
And, you and I are way over comfortable in the right wing of the party. I mean, I would love to see us be even more conservative, but I want us to win elections.
Right.
And so there's a tension there. And it's great to see the Democrats go, the problem is we didn't go woke enough. We got to next time get super woke, super DEI. Let's lean in on it.
Yep. And God bless you, Democrats. Keep it up.
Yeah.
I'd love
Hey,
for you
well,
to
they got
do that.
AOC and Jasmine Crockett paired up as the potential next running crew.
Come on.
And I think it was Don Lemon was being interviewed by Bill Maher, and he was saying, Don Lemon was saying the exact same thing. Give the people what they want. The people want Crockett. The people want AOC. And I'm like, Don, I applaud you, man. You Democrats, you keep giving the people what you think they want.
It speaks to how isolated so many of those folks are that you would think. I mean, because I don't doubt that if you're in the far left studios of Los Angeles, or you're going to Manhattan cocktail parties, and that's sort of the full extreme of your world, that you think that, in fact, the people are clamoring for a true socialist ticket.
Right. And all I would say is go back and look at the last presidential election.
Correct.
That's not what the people are clamoring for. That's not what the young people are clamoring for. That's not what the minorities and I mean, incredible group of electors that came together and elected Donald Trump. Not your just, as you said, not your just traditional conservative Republicans, but this amalgamation of Americans that really makes this, in my opinion, this presidency historic, but it also gives this presidency a mandate.
It is different. You're right. It's different than in the past. It's a different coalition, and it speaks to a lot of changes that are happening. We've got a little less than a minute till the break here, Mr. Chairman. You got any final thoughts before we sell some advertising?
No, and God bless you for selling advertising. That's great. No, I would just say to Mississippians, continue to elect Republicans. I think you'll look at the results that we've delivered over the last decade, over the last 2 decades, in education, in economic vitality. You know, the rainy day fund. We haven't even touched the rainy day fund in terms of how it's gone from $700 million in debt, the state in debt during the Democratic control, to multiple $1 billion in surplus under this Republican control. So I think Republican principles and values that we hold turn into policy, and like I said, it turns into positive outcomes for Mississippians.
Amen. That's well said. Mike, thanks for being with us.
Absolutely.
That's been Mike Hurst, the chairman of the Mississippi Republican Party. This is Lucian Smith in for Richard Cross here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. Stick with us. We'll have JT Mitchell coming up after this break.